UFOs, ghosts, ancient civilizations, the supernatural. We may never know the truth about what's really going on, but it sure is fun to speculate.
This is Factor Theory Live with your host, Stephen Crawford. Welcome to Factor Theory Live. I'm Steve Crawford. I'm guessing my audio didn't work because I can't hear it on my cell phone in the other room, so gonna have to figure out that problem. That was my intro. One of these days you guys will get to hear it. Now today I wanted to share some audio, and since that's not working, that's really kind of bites. So what I want to do is bring up, we've been getting a lot of the last couple days, we have been getting a lot of posts coming out from Q. Let's see if I've still got it on here. Yes, I do. And Q was quiet for a long time and then just went nuts, spitting out a bunch of stuff. And a lot of the stuff I've noticed, it's almost like they're just trying to post this stuff so they have something to post for their apps, because they now charge you money for these apps so that you can comment on them and give your own analysis, if you will. And I find a lot of these people, a lot of these clips just tend to be people saying, hi, you know, Q's number one and stuff like that. Like, just clicking on one now. Okay, yeah, this is a link to Q the Wake Up on Twitter, and reposting Great Awakening news. Q dropped 2222 and 2225. Okay, I'm guessing it's got something to do. Underneath there's a picture of Schiff.
This was happening.
Let's see if I can get this to work so you guys can hear what's going on.
To come out of member where we go on, we go off.
Alright, so this doesn't seem to be working as well as I thought, but what it is, it's just propaganda. Like, that was just a propaganda video. Okay, so I'll close that off. Let's go to the one, the most recent, April 12th. That was today at just after midnight, 4 seconds after midnight. And I'll just have to describe a lot of this stuff to you. Okay, so this one's an actual YouTube video. For Out of the Shadows on YouTube, Out of the Shadows Official. Way too long to play. Okay, so there's something there that might be worth watching. What is the next one? Because there was a bunch of these. I was looking at them all, and a lot of them were just people, pictures of people or little videos from around the world, and pictures of, you know, different army guys with a Q and stuff like that. And everything else I'm seeing, there's really nothing too original. Okay, this one here is a picture of nurses holding signs that do the hashtag WWG1WGA, and they're wearing masks, but I mean, what is that supposed to tell us now? Are they in on it, or are they trying to say that it, you know, there's, everything is open to interpretation. Another one, okay. A lot of these are Twitter posts. This one looks like it's just a picture too. Okay, this is a some dude. And you just can't hear it, and I can barely hear it, but it's basically a guy saying yay Q, you know, like I said. And that was post 3943. So let's go down a little farther, see if there's anything that seems like it could have been useful to us that people on this station haven't been saying for years, and other stations. Another Twitter. Let's see. No, this is just another Q Patriot from the UK. It's a 5-second greeting. So I guess they're just trying to get their quota up so that people can't bitch too much, the people who pay for the apps. Okay, here's one that says Twitter again, but education, like most of them are Twitter. You'll notice that it's just Twitter pictures. Okay, it says no. Okay, this is educating liberals. No, but it's friggin' awesome. I had to go see it for myself. A sign: Strong America. Hashtag take down strong. What? Okay, it says Q. It's a billboard. Stay strong, America. Take down strong. I don't understand the hashtag take down strong. Maybe someone can explain that to me. Okay, so that's this dude educating liberals who from time to time has some cool stuff up there, but okay, 3934, April 10th. This one has some writing. Now it says in brackets, placeholder dash indictments tracking, arrow pointed, non-civ in brackets. So placeholder set 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, doesn't say anything there. Placeholder acts of treason in support of, like, foreign acts, FISA pub. That seems like nonsense to me. Okay, here's 13931 with a bunch of writing. The credibility of our institutions, in brackets, constitutional law that govern our great land, our republic, and our ability to regain the trust and faith of the American people all depends on our ability to restore equal justice under law by prosecuting those responsible. Yes. Blind justice in brackets. Treasonous acts in brackets, sedition against the republic in brackets, the people of the United States, in brackets, start dash lead dash in. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. Media, corps, etc. Planned and coordinated in brackets D/F. Well, D's usually Democrats, right? But okay, this is not about politics. Something far more sinister, in brackets, evil, has been allowed to flourish through all parts of our society. Well, thanks again, Captain Obvious. This is stuff, you know, George Carlin was talking about this stuff 20, 25 years ago, even 30 years ago. Pretty sure some of the founding fathers did too. It has been protected and safeguarded. It has camouflaged to appear as trusted. It has been projected, in quotes, normalized, or in brackets, sorry, by stars. It has been projected by stars. In brackets, class 1-99. Not sure what that's. So once again, I'll have to end up getting somebody on here at some point who can really help me understand a lot of this. Because I'm not getting it. I'm not seeing anything that is really new information that we can use to do some actual research. You know, bless their hearts for trying, whoever Q is, whether it's a group of people or just some dude on his computer. I suppose it's a good thing he's getting some people thinking, but okay, here's another one. Together we will win. Okay, this is all Arabic, so okay. Who can figure out the true meaning of, in brackets, COVFEFE, enjoy? So if there's anyone in the chat room that wants to take that challenge, what is COVFEFE? And let's pop over there. Hey, mechanic, how's it going? Yeah, it's a slow news day in Q-Land. That's what, like, I had to take the app off my phone because they just wouldn't stop. It was like 11, 12 o'clock, and cha-ching, cha-ching, and I keep looking, and it's just some dude or some chick going, yay, Q, you know? or a picture of a flag or some patriots, and we will win together, and we must persevere and hold fast, and just a bunch of the same propaganda that we've gotten from the military for how long now? So it just makes me question whether or not Q really is a separate entity, like this guy who approached me tried to say that he was approached by a billionaire. You know, and what's their agenda? He told me that they're just sick of the way everything's going down, the planet being destroyed, Luciferians running things, kids being raped and murdered, and that all makes a lot of sense. But there's got to be something. Like they want something else, and I would really like to know what it is. I'm thinking all roads point to a new world order. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to be one we can accept. Or are willing to accept. Okay, here's a good one. 3929, April 10th, 2020. It was at 12:42 p.m. and it states, Patriots, be cautious in your interpretations of info posted. False expectations and push based on speculation will only weaponize those who attack us. MSM, meaning mainstream media. That much I can surmise. But okay, well, then Q, if we have to be very careful in our interpretations, maybe you could give us a little more to go on, you know? Is that too much to ask? If they can't track you through posting this way, then, and they can't stop you from posting, they know who you are, so they should be able to stop you, right? So that's why, you know, I'm not sure about Q, because how hard can it be to track somebody's computer? And, you know, I watch TV and movies just like everybody else. They got mech and tech for that stuff. Hell, they use it on us, right? Every day. They're too busy with their cameras pointed at us. Okay, so back. Why does mainstream media expend resources daily attempting to discredit? Well, because it's one-sided. We realize that. I wish the liberals, you know, that's another thing. The liberals and Democrats at some point have got to see what is going on. I mean, I was what you would consider a card-carrying liberal here in Canada. I was all about it. I voted for them. I believed in a lot of the stuff they believed, and I also believed in a lot of the stuff the conservatives had to say. But it seemed that we were always forced, because it's a rigged system, right? Here in Canada, I'm not sure about the States. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the States. I gotta adjust my microphone here. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the States, that we are still under British rule, and only the Queen, at least here in Canada, is capable of firing a politician. So many of my friends, you watch on Facebook, Twitter, and just about every YouTube, you know, why aren't these people being put in jail? Why aren't they being fired? Here in Canada, they call for a no confidence vote. And usually when like they've done this on, I think they did it to Stephen Harper a couple of times. And what that is it calls for an early vote on another election, saying that the other parties have no confidence in the person who was elected through our system, because we don't get to vote for the guy here. We have to vote for the party. So if you like a liberal guy in your area, a liberal MP or MPP, that's cool, you can vote for them, but just know that if you think Trudeau is a dick, and I happen to think that's the case, you get stuck with him as your prime minister. Whereas I believe it's different in the States. You guys get to actually choose the person you want to vote for, and it doesn't matter what party they are with. You don't get stuck with the jerks from that party. And if that's the case, kudos. Don't let them take that from you, no matter what you do. And you know, you get pissed. You see, why isn't Trump standing up? You know, why isn't he saying anything? And my Q guy was like, oh, you know, he's got to bide his time. You know, look what happened with JFK. He could be shot. And, you know, that's all well and good. I can understand that. I would think that they would have to get rid of the people that are in, like, the CIA and FBI and DOJ and NSA that are crooked, that they know are, before they can actually really start going after the people that need to be taken down, because they're being protected by these people in these ABC offices. But what's taking them so long? You know, what special rules are in place for these people? What kind of rules do they have for? Geez, what am I thinking of? It's been so long since we've had jobs going. Unions, you know, what kind of union deal did they get? This is just nuts. Okay, so back to that same post. Future proves past. Events unlock. That's true, yeah. And past proves future. It helps us to figure out what's going to happen in the future, which is why I'm just in awe that even in an age of information, everybody is so ignorant. At least the people that are far left. There are people that still want to call themselves Democrats that now are basically in the middle. And a lot of the people that are in the middle, because basically I am in the middle. I think Dems have some good ideas. They're just being forced into play the far left agenda by Luciferians and baby killers. And there's a lot of people that are Democrats that, like, what I don't understand. There are a lot of people out there who, period, can't have babies and they want to adopt. So what is the mindset to killing babies, to abortions? I can understand if the woman's going to die, or if she was raped brutally. Even then, I'd say, you know, if they're going to die, yes. But, you know, even rape, just, you know, put the baby up for adoption. I know it's easy to say as a man, but, you know, but there's another thing, right? They're all about the my body, my choice. Well, where's all of our choices now? Even Democrats at home, the card-carrying ones, they don't have any more rights than we do. All of our rights are being taken away. So when are you guys going to join us? Well, I'm sitting here talking to liberals and Dems, but I don't think there's too many people in those circles that listen to us here, because most of the people here make their political and religious views painfully obvious. Take a quick look back over to the chat room. Und in here, yeah, we have Smeek and Weed, Blasphemous Buddha Tones, Wall E, Open Philosopher, Comet, Idaho Guy, Third Engineer, Maced 139, Mechanic, SJ, Batsman, Lumen Jingos, My Eye One, Jared Bear, Monster 383, Plant Manager, I love that name, if it means what I think, Omega Logo, Stardust Man, me, not me, but ME in the room there, Zippy 55, Pat Rabbit, Buddy, Crab Cake, Popsicle Toes, Death Star, Surrey in the house, and Mr. Rowe. Okay, and back to chat. Anybody got any good conversations going on in there? Fine. SJ, yes, thank you, you rock. Yeah, Francis, that was a really good show tonight, buddy. I want one of those maps. I missed the question, so I wasn't able to answer your question. But if you give me one of those maps, I'll give you one of my Factor Theory Live t-shirts. There are celebrities and people around the world, several people around the world wearing my show shirt, so that's kind of neat. Joe Chin from Ghost Hunters International, Ghost Hunters, he's a buddy, he loved it. Alright, so I'll go back to the Q post briefly here. Okay, so yeah, I left off at future proves past. Think CEO departures. Yeah, that's suspect, right? Why did all these DICKs disappear around the same time? FBI departures, DOJ, state White House, DIA, Pentagon, Senate, House, AMB, IG, Judge install, SC install, White House install, FBI install. Okay, so I would have to get a little more into those to see who the installs were, because admittedly I don't watch the news, and most of the info I get here from the people on this station, Revolution Radio, at freedomslips.com. We are 100% listener supported, so please click donate or go down to the Patreon button and click that, become a patron. It says a mad painter, but that's for here, so go ahead and click on that. And you can rent space, get a hold of management on the homepage for your ads, advertising space. And we do not have commercials. There are a few hosts that have deals where they can pop up their own commercials and that, but that's because we don't get paid by the station. And none of it is corporate stuff. It's all small business, so we like to help those guys out too. Okay, U.S. Attorney install. Game theory. If you look, you can see. Q. Okay, so that one's kind of informative. What is that out of, I think, 20? Yeah, like 20 posts, and there was one that I would consider to be prudent. Truth is right in front of you. Okay, this is a Breitbart one, so these guys tend to have some pretty good stuff most of the time. Yeah, for those who don't know, a lot of the people who listen to this will already know. CBS played the hospital footage from the Italy hospital and everything they were going through. And they tried to pass it off as, I believe, New York or something like that. So this post, yeah, that's basically sharing that the same stuff that almost everybody, it's almost like this guy has a few good links or pages that he goes to, and then just as soon as they pop something, he turns it into a Q post and puts it up like 2 minutes later. That's just my opinion, of course. I could be flat out wrong. I don't ever profess to have the total truth, because as far as I'm concerned, where are you going to get it from, really? History is being rewritten constantly. That's part of the agenda with the Zionists and the Democrats and the Satanists or Luciferians, whatever you want to call them. There are so many things that they can do to screw us up, but there are also so many things that if there is a Q and there are people on these white hats are real, I really hope they start doing shit soon. I realize they can't be advertising a bunch of it because, you know, the press is going to eat it up, and the next thing you know, it's going to be everywhere and plans get foiled. April 9th. What happens when state actors, in brackets, assets, are removed? How does a state actor gain leverage over a person in power? RE blackmail. Define traitor. Data exchanges can be very dangerous. Okay. Nothing insightful there. I'm trying to find something insightful. Sorry, people. The plan. Okay, this was one. Henry Kissinger. When I first got onto Facebook, I had a friend from school, long time ago, public school, hadn't seen in years. He had joined the military, and we found each other on Facebook, and I had shared a post from Henry Kissinger where he was basically saying that soldiers were dumb, stupid animals. And this guy got pissed at me, thinking I was the one, like it was a picture of him, and it was his quote, but this guy just lost it, got triggered. I guess maybe he was a liberal, being here in Canada. We could take the best of the far left or the left and the best of the right and throw it all together, throw out the garbage, and everybody have a great life, but they refuse to let that happen.
And they keep trying to get us all to blame each other and blame the poor. You know, the middle class blame the poor, and the poor blame the immigrants, and the rich laugh. Well, you know, they're getting bailouts on their businesses. They get tax breaks. Don't these guys have to save money? Like, if I started a business, don't I have to save money and have money saved up for like a payroll and bills and stuff? I can't just, you know, open a business and hope the government's going to bail me out, right? So why do these guys get bailouts? This is insane. And then they make us beg for help when they shut us down. They cause the problems, they shut us down, and then act like they're doing us a favor by giving us money. Now, there's a lot of people don't want to take that money, and that's cool. I understand where you're coming from. My point of view on that is you, me, our aunts and uncles and parents and grandparents and for generations have been getting raped by the royal families and their friends and buddies. They're also all families that have come here and made sure that there's constantly war so they can be taxing us for one thing or another when we shouldn't be paying taxes on anything. And, you know, how do we get rid of that? I would suggest a lot of people start to look up the laws, things like rule of law, law of the land, Royal Maritime Admiralty law, law of the sea, cemetery law. Because there's a lot of things that these people in charge, and lawyers know all of these. When I was going for custody of my daughter, or at least visitation even, I had brought up Royal Maritime Admiralty law and banking law and all of that. And the lawyer had to basically, I had asked a question, I can't remember exactly what it was, but and I said, now, is it correct that under Royal Maritime Admiralty law, blah, blah, blah? And she kind of smiled and nodded. She wouldn't explain any further, but these are the tricks they use on us. So get yourself familiar with those. Look up all your local laws, especially constitutional laws that locally are still enforced, and make copies of them, because these things are going to be taken down and rewritten. And, you know, the next thing you know, I don't know if this is true or not, but it really doesn't shock me that at some point some school books in Texas were changed to emote the sentiment that Moses was one of the founding fathers. Now, I'm hoping that's a joke, but I do know that pizza and spaghetti were classified as vegetables. And wasn't it Mitt Romney who helped get people turned into corporations, and corporations turned into people, and money turned into free speech? Because a lot of people were like, how come these guys get to say and do this? Well, that's because corporations are the only ones who are supposed to be paying taxes, right? So what better way to ensure that they don't have to pay any by having the law changed to state that corporations are people and people are corporations, so now we the people or the corporations are the ones stuck legally paying taxes according to their amendments. But even those are illegal. But we don't say anything, or the people that do get shot. William Cooper comes to mind. A lot of people try to say, you know, he was killed because he shot first at a cop and everything. And the way I see it is, look, you don't know what that man went through. You don't know what was going on there. It was admitted, there was a newscast that admitted that people that were dressed up as claiming to be local deputies and sheriffs were pretending to be teenagers partying at the edge of his property to draw him out. Now that they admitted that. Now that's a cowardly act in itself. Now they get him out. Now by this time he gets to the end of his property. Now I'm just coming up with, in that situation, what logically would have happened if I were Bill Cooper, knowing that, and the main reason they were after him is he refused to pay taxes. And there was no law on the books saying that he legally had to. So they were doing everything they could to try to screw this man over. He had to send his family out of the country for safety. And he of course, they thought he had a major arsenal. I'm sure he had a few weapons. They didn't find too many in the end. But I think what had happened is they had guys stashed around, and when he realized, I'm sure one of them pulled out a gun. When have you ever seen a cop show up to arrest somebody who is known to be armed without having their hand on their sidearm at the time, or even slowly withdrawing it? And he knew what was going on, and he knew he had publicly on his show threatened to use deadly force on anyone who stepped foot on his property. I believe somebody shot at him first, and if a cop was killed, it was either him shooting back in self-defense, trying to save himself to get into his vehicle, try to get back to his home, or the cop that got shot was probably even friendly fire from a trigger-happy cop that was across the way. And Bill got scared, of course, hopped in his vehicle, got to his house, was shot at the door. And a lot of this was documented and reenacted by a neighbor or a friend. I can't remember what the guy's name, but you can find this info on YouTube. And even Alex Jones, who Bill Cooper had said a lot about Alex Jones being a fake and stuff. But even after his death, Alex Jones was like, the way they took him down, and that was really cowardly. And if they'll do this to us, and they made him out to be this big militia leader. They didn't say he was a radio host who was popular and happened to be one of the most dangerous men in America because of his radio show. And if you listen, you can go onto YouTube and find, it's called The Hour of the Time. Take a listen to some of his old broadcasts, especially, and this one's for Mechanic, if you're still listening, buddy. Take a listen to Hour of the Time when he talks about the moon landing and his reasons for thinking the moon landing didn't happen. And the ones I was listening to didn't even have to do with a lot of the more popular and known theories. One of them being when you go to the moon, you should be able to jump with very little effort, at least 6 feet up in the air. And he was saying, do you recall anyone ever doing anything like that? And I certainly don't. And people say, well, they had to follow a routine. Look, the guy was on the moon, and he was going to be really famous. If it was me, whether I was a military guy, don't tell me all military guys follow the rules all the time. If we're to believe the biographies and movies we see about these pilots who became astronauts, they were hotheads and they loved to show off. They would have jumped and shown the viewing public that jump, and they did not. And he also went over how to get that effect of making it look like everything was slower, they just simply slowed down the playback on the video by half speed. And that's why you get guys like Clive from Ground Zero, his show, and Michael Barra, when he was still talking about it. I think he's put that to rest for now, at least according to the show he had done. And I liked the show, Michael, if you're listening, but it was a show. They had an FBI guy, a NASA guy that I can't remember if he was supposed to be an astronaut or not, and Michael Barra, and they were going over all of this stuff, and they even had Clyde on the video as well. And whenever Michael or Clyde or anybody who was on the side of it being faked would bring up something, that the astronaut guy would just, be getting all hyper and pissed off and stuff. It was like, oh, how dare you? I've known people this. Yeah, but dude, just because you know people and you've been doing, have you gone to the moon? Can you guys leave low orbit? Because I don't think you can. In fact, somebody had shared a little while ago, I'm pretty sure I was smart enough to save that clip. Yeah, it was an astronaut. What was his name? And you can find it. I'll post it again in the chat room in a minute. Don Pettit. is the guy's name. And he had said, I'd go to the moon, but we don't have the tech anymore. What? Are you telling me that we were so technologically advanced back then, snicker, that somehow that technology was lost and we are just too stupid to be able to back engineer it? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Because apparently the tech doesn't exist anymore, and all the original info, video, audio, all that stuff was erased from Apollo 11. How can that be the case? It's the moon land. It's not like it's, Apollo 14 or 15. Do we still have the original Apollo 13 audio and video? How do you not still have that? And then one of the other hosts had played the other day, there was a clip of Buzz Aldrin was asked a question by a little girl, and from what I heard Buzz saying, he was saying because we didn't really go back then and it was a story. Huh? Even there was a clip of Barack Obama saying, unlike the previous administrations, we're going to set goals that are attainable. Goals like going to Mars and to the moon. And we can't do those things right now because we can't leave low Earth orbit. If that's the case, that we can't leave low Earth orbit, then how did we get there back then using the Apollo stuff? I believe we went, but not with anything we see in Apollo. And if you watch, there's video of the press conference that the guys had afterwards, and they seem depressed, very sullen. And you see a video of a guy who's won a race, or the Kentucky Derby, a car race, or Kentucky Derby or something. Basketball players, sports, they're losing their minds just over winning a game. You would think these guys would at least have a smile on their face. And when they're talking about the stars, Collins makes a remark saying that he doesn't recall ever seeing any stars up there, and he gets a little elbow left. Neil's left elbow gives him a little quick dink in the side to stop him from saying that. Now, people would say that that's because there were ships on the moon and they couldn't show that, and the bases and stuff like that. Okay, that makes sense. But then wouldn't that mean that every mission after that we had seen was using the fake backdrop as well? Because it all looked the same. So either there's these guys there and we're not being told about it, and a lot of those conspiracy theorists are right, or we did go, but we went in tech that and the video equipment used and audio and stuff was more advanced than they're willing to let us know. And there is a video on YouTube that there was better versions of it. I found a version, I cannot remember the name of the gentleman that did it, but it had showed a joint mission between Russia and the United States where they went to Mars. And a rover gets out and it's filming, and they see something moving. Now in this video, and I've been seeing this video, I'd like to point out that I've been watching that video since at least 97, long before we had all of this stuff that we can use now to fake all these videos. So when I found it, I made sure I did a screen capture of it, because Lord knows how long it'll last, and who knows if it's real or not. But like I said, it's been around since at least 96 or 97, back long before Facebook and YouTube and all of that stuff. And the only computer apps or software available for that kind of stuff was extremely expensive and employed by people like NASA and big networks and studios. Which means that, yes, back then they obviously had the technology to be able to fake the moon landings. Back to Stanley Kubrick, right? They had everything they needed. He already had the stuff ready. So I believe we went, but I think it's not just one or the other. We went, but we didn't go in the stuff that Apollo did. That was a fake. A lot of that money went to the secret space program and to the deep underground military bases that Phil Schneider had come out and had been talking, what was it, about 6 to 9 months maybe, and he was bringing out evidence, material objects, proof of the metal from an alleged ship, or actually I think it was metal from one of the secret ships that is no longer secret, the Triangle Dealios. You guys know what I mean. I just can't think of the name right now. Had several head injuries, but this guy come out talking about this stuff and having the evidence, and then starts talking about his father, Oscar, who was part of Operation Paperclip. He was one of the guys brought over, and he was a master engineer or a master machinist, which basically he was like a MacGyver. And this guy was so smart that when he came here, he studied for however long, became a medical doctor, and was somehow, and there was paper documentation proving this. After Oscar's death, the stuff was all found by Phil, and he would bring it to shows. So they had to do that guy in. And you listen to his story about how he had gone down. There was a horrible smell. He saw an alien. He fired at it, killed one. Another one waved his hand over his chest, and it shot some kind of beam out it and gutted him like a fish. Melted the nails off of his toes. Melted the fingers off of his left hand. He looked like he had walked up to an electrified fence and grabbed a hold of it. And he could prove that that was not the case. That was not how he got his injuries. And he was dying of a form of cancer because of the radiation from that blast, I believe. And he had a friend named Ron Rummel. He had actually come out because him and his friend used to talk a lot about this stuff, and Ron had written a book and claimed to have a lot of info to prove Area 51 and just all of it. And he wound up found dead in a park. And that really pissed off Phil. Phil went on a couple shows talking about it, then started speaking out live, and then he brings out his evidence, and especially about his father, because you could prove his father really existed, and that shite really happened. And his father was allegedly one of the main guys in charge of the people during the Philadelphia experiment. One of the guys in charge of the mission, at least in charge of the health and analysis of anything they the scans they take, things like that, of the test itself. And once again, that was proven. And then he's found dead, choked to death with his catheter tightly around his neck. And I believe they tried to call that suicide at first. But like I said, he had like 2 fingers on one hand, and I think he had serious arthritis problems. He was dying of cancer. He wasn't long for this world to begin with. He certainly wasn't. He was a large man, but he wasn't very strong by this time, which would explain why it was so easy for them to choke him. And if you see the death picture, it certainly looks like somebody came up behind him. He was probably sitting in his wheelchair. I have a vision of him sitting in his wheelchair, answers the door, turns around, had let somebody in, or they stormed in, and he tried to turn in his chair, and they come up behind him, give him a smack in the head, slap him around a bit, grab his catheter, whether it was on the table or they ripped it out of him, and decided to choke him to death with it. And I believe when he was found, it was in between his wheelchair and the bed, kind of on his knees, leaning on the bed type thing. To me, that would explain that situation. Was it Dr. Carla Turner that was coming out about the abductions? rare kind of cancer, and she's gone. Like really fast acting that nobody else seems to get. And when you look at these things, you tend to find out they have, especially even with the viruses today and that, guys like Bill Gates own them. And, you know, where does Bill Gates get off trying to be, did he go to medical school at all? I don't think he did, right? He was a computer guy. So how does that make him an expert on vaccinations all of a sudden? Just because he's rich? Let's put a rich guy in charge. He knew how to make money. Ho, 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 ho. I mean, come on. Rich people destroy the planet, and the problem is we keep thinking that our favorite rich person's going to change things, and they don't tend to. Donald tried to, was being shut down by the left and right, and now this was just the icing on the cake for them, because he was restoring the economy, and more minorities were back to work. They were starting to realize how good it felt to actually earn their money rather than have to beg for it. A lot of people get mad that Trump has cut off a lot of welfare and a lot of food stamps, and on the surface that seems harsh, but not when you take into consideration that the majority of these people on, and you know, I'm on it too. I'm on a disability pension. I worked, I got hurt, used up, and let go, and but most of these people are illegal immigrants. At least I was born here, you know. But they're illegal immigrants. They don't work, never have. And there's a lot of these people who come here from Mexico and stuff that are great people, and they try to do things the right way. They apply. They get good jobs. They treat everybody with respect. They don't try to force their religions on everybody. I don't hear them asking for any kind of restitution. You know, it's just nuts. So we need to get people to stop being so quick to grab the money. I mean, in this situation, of course, some of us have to. I'm just hoping we do get a chance to shut it all down, and we do get a chance to go back to work before they decide, screw it, we've got everybody at our mercy now. Let's just go full blown. I have heard a lot of people talking about the homeless, and they seem to have disappeared, a lot of them. Even around St. Catharines, I'm not seeing them so much. And then you see videos like from New York where there's all these quote-unquote unclaimed people that they allege have died from COVID-19, when we know that you could get a broken fingernail or a broken finger and they will write you up as COVID if you have a runny nose while you go in to get that x-ray. So and there's been no more people dying from this COVID than from the flu. There simply hasn't been. And if you're getting your info that says there has been from the mainstream media, then, you know, give your head a shake. You can't ignore mainstream media and consider them fake news with a lot of stuff, because it's been proven they've lied about a lot of things, especially 9/11. There's that famous video of the woman from the BBC talking about one of the towers being destroyed when it was still there in the background behind her, and it was a live feed. The Conan O'Brien video, where he's got all of these different shows saying the exact same thing. Every once in a while you get one of the actors would change a word or two, or would change the phrasing of how they said it. But it all amounted to them reading a script. And when I think of that, think about the movie Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams. When he got there and was set up in that station, and they had the Tweedledee and Tweedledum twins that showed up, that would check the news, rip it off of the teletype machine, and just sit there and scratch out whatever he wasn't allowed to talk about. And then there was the one scene where he finally broke down. He was actually at a bombing as it happened, and they tried to get him to not talk about it. And I believe that was ultimately one of the reasons he got taken off the air, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be, of course. Like I say, I do not profess to have all the answers. I know a little bit about a lot of things. Don't know everything about anything, and nobody really does. We're constantly learning. We're constantly being exposed to new information, whether it's new to us or whether it's been around for millennia and we're just now being exposed to it because it's been hidden secretly. We've been programmed not to want to seek it out because it's considered occult, and occult simply means hidden. NASA means to deceive. You get so many people sharing all these NASA posts and stuff from the satellites, is it Kepler and all that? And I don't know about you guys, but to me they look so flippin' fake. It's just unreal. Videos and movies do a better job of what NASA is spitting out. And they had popped out one picture, and I think if you look at it, you can probably still find it at nasa.gov. And it was a picture of the Earth and the Moon, and it really did look like something that was made by a 6-year-old who was just learning how to use a cut and paste graphics type program for beginners. It was sad, and they posted a picture of Pluto that actually had a dark shaded area that looked like Pluto from Disney. That's that much of a joke. Now Dan, my buddy Dan, would come out, and one of the reasons he believes it mainly, and like I say, Dan, if you're listening, I totally think they could have gone, and they could very well have, people around the world could have been recording what they were saying, but they didn't go in those, and we don't know for sure that they got on that rocket, right? Nobody was up close there, only people in the know, so they could have went up the elevator, then got back down out of the outfits, dressed as maintenance guys or whatever, and then hopped into a ship with somebody else who was the pilot, because they wouldn't know how to fly this tech. They've been too busy learning how to fly all this fake stuff for Apollo, right? And that makes much more sense to me, that we did go. They couldn't show us what they did, so they had to fake it, and they couldn't let us know about the tech they had, so they had to do Apollo. How long has green screen tech been around? And then if you look at Disney, when Disney first started doing movies, the tech was basically available because of them. I can't remember what they call it, but it was a certain kind of camera they developed that gave the illusion of 3D, and that's exactly what they used on the backdrop for the just about any video you see. It was either in a studio or outdoors in a controlled outdoor environment with like a backdrop superimposed. All right, now it is 10:56, so there's got to be a break coming up any minute now. And there we go. All right, Steve Crawford, I'll be back on the other side.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock. For This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hello, Karl Marx here. Look at my wonderful hair. Notice how I sweep it back.
Carl?
I call it the 360 sweep. Beard, sideburns, and the magnificent coif.
Carl!
What? What is this?
You're on the radio. They can't see you.
Oh, yeah, I get confused. Want to learn more about the Marxist agenda and other important stuff? Listen to The Ultimate Remedy with L.B. Bork, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Revolution Radio.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Alright, Steve Crawford, Factor Theory Live. Welcome back for those of you who stuck around. Before the break, I was talking about things. Like I said, I got a few head injuries, and the very last one, if you guys check out any of my older videos, back when I was really angry still, you'll hear that, you know, I had a better vocabulary, thoughts came a lot easier. These days, thoughts tend to disappear as they're forming. So that's, you know, it's kind of a good thing that Revolution Radio has this formatted in a way that we can see things we have written down so we can remember the things we want to talk about. So I was talking a lot about the moon and how I believe we went, but not, I believe the entire Apollo program was just a bunch of bunk. Okay, so I had gotten into Kissinger at one point and then kind of lost myself. I told the story about how my buddy got pissed at me thinking I was calling soldiers stupid sheep and animal. But the plan by Henry Kissinger: today's Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow they will be grateful. This is especially true because they were told there was an outside threat beyond whether real or from beyond, whether real or promulgated.
threatened our very existence, okay? It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with the world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. And he said this in 92 at a Bilderberg meeting. Now they try to... we should be worried about a lot of this stuff. Now a lot of people go, oh yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious, but there's a lot of people that just really aren't. They don't realize that corporations are deeply, and always have been deeply, embedded in politics. I think like Woodrow Wilson really helped bring all of that into being with it was 1913, I believe, the Federal Reserve Act. It was a Jekyll Island. Yeah, I believe that's what it was. And then you look at larger conspiracies, back to even, you can take it back to, some people were talking about it earlier on one of the shows about the Titanic, and the real Titanic, and why and how it went down. And the fact that J.P. Morgan was supposed to be on that ship, along with a lot of the other rich guys, the Astors and others that went down with that ship. And it's interesting that a lot of the people that went down with it were against the Federal Reserve and were fighting them on it. Now, does that mean they used that tragedy to intentionally kill a bunch of people to make it look good? Definitely. I mean, I can't say that for a fact what happened, but does it make sense? Of course. Look who we're talking about back then. We're talking about robber barons who thought they were above the law. They owned the law. There was nothing they were afraid to try and pull. And a lot of them got away with it. There was some rich dude, it was a few years back, but I can't remember which family he's a part of. It was one of those families, and he had raped his toddler daughter, and he was sentenced to house arrest because the judge said he wouldn't fare well in prison. Well, of course not, because they hate child molesters, as they should. Okay, so we had that dude. Let's bring this down. Now I wanted to get into, where did I save it? Okay, yeah, here we go. Exopolitics, Michael Sala's site, exopolitics.org. Now, a while ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, maybe even 6, he did a very interesting article. And of course I'm biased. It's interesting because he used one of my videos in it to illustrate his points. The servers are moving really slow because everybody's on the computer these days. Okay, so it was called Project Looking Glass, the QAnon and Deep State Temporal War. And at that point, I was like losing my mind. I was talking to somebody about it because I had just did a video of a clip from the Joe Rogan show when he was interviewing Bob Lazar and Jeremy, and I forgot to write down his last name. I wasn't sure I was going to be talking about him today. But the guy who did the documentary with Bob for Netflix. And I specifically did a screen capture on that part where he's talking about Project Looking Glass and the possible applications, and shuts him down before he gets to get any further into it, and goes on to the Tic Tac UFO. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the Tic Tac UFO was, Air Force testing something over the water and using the Navy as guinea pigs, to try and test it all, to see if they could be tracked. So in Michael's article here, it was November 13th, That's when it came out, 2019. So, after returning to the public arena with posts on a newly created 8CUN channel, QAnon made a very brief reference to Project Looking Glass. Now I'm going to have to look that up. Despite the post's brevity, there is much behind this highly classified project that is relevant to the QAnon movement and the efforts of the deep state to marginalize it and remove Donald Trump from power forever. In post 3585, QAnon wrote, it's got a twitter.com thing, and it said, Project Looking Glass, looking forward to looking back. Okay, so we'll check out what he shared there. Because this stuff is fascinating to me, because it makes me wonder what's going on with, multiverse. Is time all happening at the same time? Can people from the future come back to stop us from screwing up the future? Okay, so this had to do with an IP address. POTUS QAnon, okay, IP address 11.11.18.0 to 11.11.18.255, and it had to do with an IP address. So I'm not even sure what that went to, but obviously it had to do something with the QAnon stuff. So here I accidentally close it off. And then he had gone on to, where is it? There it is again. He had gone on to share the video where Bob is talking about this stuff, and then I remembered Dan had on his site, Dan Willis, for his YouTube page, he had filmed the very first public speaking engagement that was supposed to have cameras allowed, and Dan took one, and he was right up front and managed to ask a question. So I think it's a couple hours, and it's on his YouTube site. So you know what? I will go in there quickly now and post it in the chat room. There's quite a few Dan Willises, actually. Well, maybe it would be easier if I type in Dan Willis, Bob Lazar. Like, it should have popped up Dan's page towards the top. Okay, there's the Joe Rogan clip. A body language. Yeah, somebody did a body language thing. They watched the video, and this guy was supposed to be an expert. And from what he could tell, Bob Lazar was telling the truth. Jeremy Corbell, that's the guy's name. Sorry about that. There we go. Dan Willis. Click his thing. It's got a picture of Dan in his beige suit that he wore at the National Press Club. Okay, yeah, it's called Bob Lazar 2-hour first-time interview near Area 51 in '93. And, yeah, Dan personally filmed it, and it was Bob's first public appearance in Rachel, Nevada. No recording was allowed, so he had to record secretly. But I mean, back then cameras were pretty big and bulky, so I don't think he did a very great job. The neighbor's dog saying, well. Got to love living in a neighborhood that is full of dogs, and it's always the little ones that are the happiest. Okay, yeah, so look up Dan Willis, got that picture like I told you, and check out the Bob Lazar video, and I'm going to get the link to post right now in the chat room. Right. And if you get a chance, go into the chat room, because these guys, a lot of the people who are in there, some of them are hosts and some of them aren't, but they are very informed, and they always like to post. Some videos are just cool, funny things, but a lot of them is great information that explains in more detail the type of things that me and the other hosts here talk about on a frequent basis. There's one video here from Death Star. Trump says big things are happening, and they surely are. Certainly. But what? And this Dr. Fauci guy, like, there's more than enough video proving he's a douchebag, right? So why is he in there in the Trump circle? That is suspect to me. Why is he there, Donald? Come on, man. Body language, Trump task force leakers. That's from Blasphemous Buddha. 5-finger death punch. I apologize. Yes, SJ Rev Radio, the conscious community. And Death Star loves 5-finger death punch. Post it on. Okay, and there's a mechanic posted proof America's under attack. If that's the video, I think it is. It's pretty good. Okay, so back to Mr. Sala's article and see if I can post that as well. Come on. Let's go space trucking. And paste. Oh, come on. And there we go. Copy. Get rid of that one. And there is a lot of great stuff on Michael's site too, so make sure you guys check out more of the articles. I really want to know if these guys really do have anything to do with Q. Is Q really still a thing, or did somebody just take over it because you stopped posting? Okay, C and L, I'm not sure who that's supposed to be in his. Oh, Lazar probably, okay. Let's see, wasn't there something about Looking Glass, Project Looking Glass? And Lazar, yeah, that was later on when we started getting into heavy physics of it, because gravity distorts space and time, and what they were trying to do, and I say look back in time, and most people conjure up images of a time tunnel. They're looking at distorting time in microseconds to see whatever event they were trying to observe through a gravitational lens. So that was a different project they were dealing with, but that was essentially playing with gravity distorting time, and they were using that to be able to view things in the past and the future, and they could use that to figure out who is going to screw with their agenda, right? And I think they may have been doing that for a long time, and how, for all we know, they could have been sending messages to their own family members back through time all of this time, because isn't there a lot of things in the Bible that have changed too? I'm pretty sure the Bible used to make reference to money lenders, and now it's bankers. There was lions laying with lambs, and now it's wolves laying with lambs. There are things I distinctly remember, and that's getting into your Mandela effects, and I believe there could be something to that as well. It could have something to do with CERN, Large Hadron Collider, and everything that happened when it when it shut down. Their public excuse was some kind of critter or rodent or something chewed through it. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of what this place looked like. I'll see if I can find a video to share about that in the chat room. And you go to freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio chat room, check that out, and make a donation while you're there. Oh, for crying out loud, I did that little donation thing and forgot what the heck I was going to look for. And a lot of this, they think it had to do with Montauk. Now, there was Andrew Basiago. He had came out, he was doing a lot of shows. He had announced he was running for president. He was actually, at one point, Dan Willis's lawyer. So Dan knew him personally. And if I remember correctly, Dan was saying he was one of the ones who convinced Andy to start talking publicly. Now, Andy has been cut off, or he's cut himself off, or he somehow disappeared, because me and Dan have tried to reach out to him. His email is full and has been for a long time. So I don't know how you could even get a hold of him, and I don't see any recent news about him. So anybody else out there knows anything about what's going on with Andrew Basiago and his story. He had popped out a video. Part of his story was he was sent back to Gettysburg, and he was around 10 or 11 or something like that. And there's a picture, and it's been in documentaries about the war, the Civil War, that is, and it shows a boy wearing boots that are way too big for him. And Andrew's assertion was that is a picture of him wearing these boots, because when he showed up, he had no clothes, and he'd found clothes and boots and threw them on, spotted a camera, marched himself out to it, and posed himself. That was part of his story, and I would really like to have him on to find out for myself, listen to him, and hear if I can hear the sincerity in his story, or if it's just an ego type thing, because I don't know. Laura is friends with him as well, Laura Eisenhower, and she's done shows with him, and I think she believes him, and I have a lot of respect for Laura and Dan, and I believe Dan believes him as well, and I would not be shocked to find out that Michael does. And then, Stuart Swerdlow was also involved in some of that. Now, he was also supposed to be allegedly a Montauk child, and I think it was his grandfather or great-grandfather was like the first, was it prime minister or whatever, president of Russia or something, and his family was involved in a lot of things, and he owns up to it. And part of his story was he had been sent back in time to allegedly kill Christ. Now, he didn't do it. So he says he did not do it, and refused to, so they tried to get him to go back to at least get a DNA sample. His story is a very interesting one too, and I was talking to a woman who claimed to be part of that whole Montauk deal, and I totally believe that she was used at some point, and an MK Ultra victim, and she was telling me, I believe her because I did a Skype interview with her, and all of it, none of it could be used. The video and audio had been meddled with, and that's never happened, and it hasn't happened since. So I do believe that her handlers were keeping a tight lid, and they're doing things intentionally to drive her nuts. For all she knew, I could be one of them, right? When you get into these things, especially if you were a victim of that kind of abuse, the admitted abuse that happens during MK Ultra and Joseph Mengele, the kind of things, rape at 3 years old, trauma-based indoctrination, that they can just do things with your mind that you will not remember, keywords, call you up, say something, you go off, kill somebody, come back, start washing your dishes, and do not remember it. And I totally believe that's possible. But this woman had started losing. She was telling me how she was used to kill people. She admitted to killing people for the CIA, not under her own volition, but that she had done that. But she got really mad at me because I wanted to interview Stuart and get his story and his view, and she tried to say he was evil, and because of that I was willing to be open-minded and get his side of the story, that made me evil and a Satan worshiper. And I'm like, look, I was just trying to play devil's advocate, and I'm like, look, did you not, he was a victim too, right? And she's admitted, well, yeah, he tells the truth about his family lineage and the things he went through and stuff. I'm like, right, okay, and you told me you actually did kill people. He was sent to kill Jesus, but didn't do it, and for some reason you're losing your shit. And and then she's like, oh, you made a choice there. And it's like, well, like I said, I don't hold it against her because that woman was thoroughly traumatized. They take people that are smart, funny, and that other people would normally listen to and consider to be rational, and they just break them down, tear them apart, then pop them back into reality. If they don't play ball, they lock them up, do everything they can to discredit them. And people will say, well, why don't they just kill them? Well, maybe they can't. Maybe they're crucial to their existence somehow is crucial to the deep state's desired timeline. Maybe guys like me cannot be killed for the things we say. We can be shut down and shadow banned, but for some reason, something I do is going to influence someone somehow, whether it's for good or bad, but that person is essential to their long-term plans, so they have to keep someone like me alive, but under their thumb and discredited as much as possible. And now, they don't even need to kidnap you anymore and put you through all of this. They do it through TV shows and movies. And they can do it with this 5G. They can put these voices right into your head so that you start to think you are nuts or you were talking to God. And I believe some of those tests were done on, like, Son of Sam. And the guy that they say killed Bobby Kennedy. Because he doesn't remember doing it. I don't think he said, no, I didn't do it. But I think he was adamant that he doesn't remember doing it, and that he didn't have a problem with Kennedy. And that would be indicative of them doing tests on, targeting certain individuals that aren't so much essential, or people that they looked at, they had this intention in mind, and they strapped themselves into the Project Looking Glass machine or turned it on, however that thing works, and then they found out what they needed to do to certain people and how they would react to this treatment and how that would affect their long-term goals. And if you believe the dude that Kerry Cassidy had been talking to about it, they had said, this gentleman had said that all timelines at this point, more than just one country has this technology, and it may have been derived from Tesla tech. It actually makes perfect sense that it would have been either from extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, or Tesla. And they know who to target through these things. They know who to kill. And I really, really want to get a hold of Andrew, and I think the next best thing, and I did get a hold of Stuart, sent me his email, and he said yes for an interview, so I'm going to see if I can't set something like that up for next week. Happy Easter for those who celebrate. Donate. We are 100% listener supported, which means we don't have to listen to the man or the deep state or anybody else. And we are uncensored as far as topics go. I know a lot of people don't like talking about flat earth, and now I can just already hear people rolling their eyes and starting in the chat room. Look, man, the way I see it, my show is a conspiracy show. Okay, and I talk about conspiracies. That's all there is to it, and flat earth happens to be one. So if I talk about it, doesn't necessarily mean I'm a flat earther who believes it all. It means I'm not ignorant enough to just shut people down, because to me that's a programmed response. Why can we not talk about it? Dan brings up many times, Dan Willis, about William Case, or Casey, and his Project Mockingbird. We will know our program is complete when everything the American public believes is a lie. Everything. Not just some things, not this thing and that thing, everything. Okay, so the way I see it is I'm keeping my mind open, because what if the Bible is true, man? You know, what if it's more of a like say even Thor and Odin, that kind of thing, the 9 realms and all of that. You know, wouldn't that be trippy if that was one of the big secrets they were keeping from us? And if it's true, how the heck do we get there? I love talking about this stuff, man. It cheers me up. Life sucks. You know, life sucks right now. So why not talk about things that are fun or funny or just flat out interesting? Okay, so further down, here we go, in the exopolitics.org, he starts to talk about Basiago. Okay, according to Basiago, okay, no, wait a minute. The CIA developed chronovisor technology for the control group running extraterrestrial-related projects. Majestic 12, one of the principal arms of the deep state. Given that the CIA is the key agency for raising black budget funds, which of course it is, we know that through sex trafficking and drug trafficking, it's the chief raising for black budget funds for the entire military industrial complex. It would have been easy to siphon off funds to conduct its own Project Looking Glass project. Indeed, this is precisely what occurred according to Basiago, a practicing attorney who says he was involved in Project Pegasus from 1967 to 1971 as a 6-year-old child. So from 6 to 10. He says that the chronovisor developed by Father Ernetti was refined by the CIA in collaboration with the then Advanced Research Project Agency, ARPA, now DARPA. Basiago claimed that in 70, he and other Project Pegasus child participants visited various classified facilities hosting chronovisors. So apparently these guys were all, you know, in contact and helping each other make sure their stuff worked, and were sharing these kids that they were using as guinea pigs. In fall 1970, the children of my group, this is him saying it, in fall 1970, the children of my group first began accessing past and future events via third and fourth dimensional Ernetti Gamelli chronovisors situated at the General Manufacturing Company in Convent Station, New Jersey, a public auditorium under construction in Morristown, New Jersey, and the ITT Defense Communications Facility in Nutley, New Jersey. Basiago's assertion of visiting a classified facility run by ITT in Nutley, New Jersey in 70 reserved surprising corroboration by no less than a personage famed and a radio host Art Bell, who was at the time employed by ITT, okay, I didn't know that, in a classified NATO communication project. This was information Bell had never before publicly revealed. He was clearly shocked as Basiago revealed during a live radio interview on August 14, 2015, how he encountered Bell working on a classified project at the Nutley facility in 1970 when Basiago was only 8 or 9 years old. Basiago asserts that chronovisor technology was one among many ways in which the CIA and its intelligence partners could view the past and future in order to gain intelligence data, and to also attempt to manipulate history through time travel experiments. Now, I'm wondering if some of this was used. Did George Bush Sr. get a hold of himself back at the time he was in the CIA? Because there's video or pictures of him in Dallas the day that he was killed. And it's also been alleged that he was one of Tesla's handlers, or at least was somehow involved with Tesla at the end of his life. Wrong tube. Then he goes on to the CIA, right, as director. So any of that kind of information that is available in that agency would be known by him, or at least should be, theoretically. He was privy to it, especially as an agent. I'm sure he, and who his father was and stuff. He had to have been privy to it. And their family is just evil. Like his wife looks exactly like Aleister Crowley. There's picture and videos, and it's like looking at Crowley in a wig. It's scary. And Bush Jr., his wife looks like him. And there's a lot of inbreeding going on in these families. And Dan he had mentioned, I believe, someone he was working with had figured out a Project Looking Glass type thing where they could view certain things. I think it was maybe just the past, or maybe it was just audio even, but fascinating stuff. I did not know. See, I should have read more of this article, because I didn't know Art Bell had actually worked at that place, because that lends a lot of credence. Okay, so Michael's essentially equating the military intelligence community as Q and the deep state and CIA together. They're using time distortion technologies to peer in the future and anticipate each other's moves, which would explain why many of Q's predictions have not panned out, and the deep state appears to have warded off the most damaging revelations made by Q. See, that's dangerous in itself too. So maybe Q should just be shutting up, right? So that these guys can do this stuff in peace and get the deep state protectors in these alphabet agencies out of play, so we can go after the bigger guns in political office and in Hollywood. As a lot of people refuse to believe Tom Hanks is a pedophile. And, maybe he's not. Maybe. I don't believe he did with his children. But he's definitely down with them, and we know that Oprah's down with pedophiles and rape hounds. She led a lot of these actresses to the lamb-like slaughter. There are pictures of her basically handing an actress off to him, and he's looking at the girl like she's a steak, and she looks kind of scared. Like, you gotta wonder, why was she allowed to become so famous? If black people are so kept down, why was a black woman allowed to become such a powerhouse? Because she goes to these meetings too, some of them anyway. Then you got your Bohemian Grove, right? And all the stuff that goes on there. They do a quote-unquote alleged mock sacrifice that is supposed to be I can't remember, the burning of care, getting rid of caring and stuff. Now, they do this in a place where no media is allowed in, no public is allowed in. So do you really believe it's a mock ceremony? I don't think it's a mock ceremony at all. I think they either kidnap a child or they buy a baby off of somebody, and they do a real sacrifice for this, because they're all sick freaks, and look at all the spirit cooking and all this other sickness that our kids and grandkids are just being mind raped and eye raped with. Half the time I don't even go on Facebook anymore. I scroll really quick because there's just so much utter ignorance, and I just don't get it. How can so many people be so blind and ignorant to the realities of this sick friggin' world? And like I said, even Democrats are and liberals are gonna have to wake up at some point. The longer they keep us locked up and they're trying to force vaccinations on us, what happened to my body, my choice, right? And their whole logic behind the only way a vaccine works is if everybody gets it is just stupid. I don't get vaccinated and I don't get sick, and I have what would be considered an autoimmune disease. I have colitis, and I get sick easier than most people. I haven't gotten sick yet this year. I think I start to get a bit of a runny nose, itchy throat, start to feel a little feverish, go to bed, sleep a good 8 hours, and I wake up feeling fine. Or maybe I feel like crap maybe one more day. And it goes away on its own. We have an immune system. We don't need your vaccinations, Bill. And he keeps testing them out on these places in Africa and India and sterilizing everybody. And he did a TED Talk where he says that there are 7 billion people on the planet, but with proper health care, diet, and vaccinations, they can reduce that by 15%. Now, maybe it was even 50%, he said. And this current virus is something that is killed by sun and heat. Yet they want everybody to stay at home rather than going outside onto a beach and, come on. It doesn't make any sense. Democrats, come on. Stop being the enemy. You're an American. You were born in America. I believe that people need to be helped too, but I believe that our citizens need to be helped first. They need to be helped, and not just given handouts. They need to be helped out of their situation so they can become a productive member of society and feel good about themselves again. A small interest fee loan for them to start a business, something like that. That's something that they can end up hiring more people. That's the kind of help we need. We don't need a welfare state to be put on and just, sit there and make fun of people who work for a living. I mean, come on. And all these people who get their news and their facts from The View, please. And Bernie's gone. Bernie dropped out. He's taking the money and running. I think his theme song is, was it Steve Miller? Come on, take money and run. Damn right, that's Bernie's theme. And like I said, I don't watch the news that much. So what does that mean now? Who's all left, right? Because I'm going to go into the chat room, check this out. Does that mean Biden is the guy now? Like really? Because if that's the case, any Democrat that is not a baby-killing child molester, you've got to be looking at the videos of this guy, because he's not hiding it. He's not hiding it. He does it at press conferences at Christmas on NBC, ABC, CBS. It doesn't matter. He fondles women and children on camera, doesn't try to hide it. The only way this guy can beat Trump is if Trump gets killed, or if they have flat out totally taken over all of the voting machines. And there's got to be a way to get Hillary into jail. I mean, come on. Who the hell is Hillary Clinton that she deserves to just live and do, kill and let live? For herself, that is. She kills everybody else and then lets her buddies get off the hook for... There's audio, and maybe it's still on YouTube, of her talking to somebody about a case where she... Yeah, Idaho guy, Steve Miller. Maybe somebody had Bernie a cheeseburger. Yeah. But there's audio of Hillary admitting to and laughing about getting this guy off for molesting a child, and saying that he passed a lie detector test, and when he did, that she forever lost all faith in lie detector tests, and just laughing about it, making a joke. That's out there. Hillary fans, go take a listen. You guys are in the position you're in today because you allowed Hillary to... Did anybody watch that convention that year? What was that about? It was supposed to be a convention where people get to hear from both people, but it was just automatic. Everybody that was involved in it was going Hillary, 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 and then they even started making fun of the Bernie fans. Then a video camera cuts to Bernie. He's up far away, kind of in the rafters, and it looked like he had a black eye. He was recovering from a black eye. And then you see all these other pictures of people with the black eyes. And it's like, is that the... you're going to get money? You got to kill some people, get a punch of the black eye to be part of the club. What's up with the black eyes? And why is there still anybody who follows the Catholic Church and the popes, and because they're absolving pedophiles, and this is common knowledge. It was a year or two back that I think it was 400 priests in Pennsylvania alone were busted for child molesting. That's just in Pennsylvania. What about the rest of the states and all the provinces and all the other countries and territories, regions that are infiltrated and have been all this time by the pedophile-run Catholic Church? I wish I could remember what pope it is. There's a story pops into my head about, and it's part of the reason that Martin Luther, not King, the other Martin Luther, it's part of the reason that he lost his shite and got into it with the Pope at the time. And there was apparently parties where there'd be cakes with little naked children that would pop out, and they were selling you could pay for admittance to heaven. If you sinned and you were afraid you were going to go to hell, well, as long as you paid the Pope, he would give you a, what do they call them, a patents or something, that says this guy has paid God for his sins and now he gets to go. And people believed this, that you could buy your way. I think that the Greeks and the Egyptians and all that also believed it too, right? That you couldn't go into the afterlife unless you had money. Great way to try to scare people into becoming rich at any cost. Okay, so once again, Michael Salla, exopolitics.org, great site. Michael is a great guy. He does a lot of stuff with Laura and Dan as well. And that's the end of that article. Now, I wanted to go to Dan's site. There's not a whole lot of time left. Stands. Okay, there we go. And that is the webmatrix.net. And like I've said before, he's got this stuff laid out chronologically. He starts at 1900. There's some interesting stuff that happened before that, even in the late 1800s, Aurora, Texas, where... Now, I don't know how much I believe about, like, it had to have been that the ship was already crashing and just happened to crash into Judge Proctor's weather vane, or windmill, whatever it was at that time, because I can't see just crashing into that, destroying a spaceship. Then again, we don't know what the materials were, right? If the propulsion system created a shield, they could use just about any type of malleable material to build a ship, as long as the propulsion system puts a field, an energy field around the ship. So that field, I imagine, must have been down. But they had found, and it was in the newspaper, a traveler from another world, and it was a small child-sized person, and they gave him a Christian burial. And Jim Marrs did a video and a book about it before he died. Rest in peace, Jim. Great man. Very funny guy, too. He did a video going to... They did ground radar or sonar to see where the thing was buried. It's since been removed, but there is a plaque there at the cemetery that states that, you know, this is the cemetery where this visitor from another world was buried after crashing at Judge Proctor's pad, if you will. And there was something about the water on that in the well. I think they had put the materials in the well, and it was really radioactive, and the person who had lived there after him, it was either him or the person who lived there after him, got severe arthritis. His hands were just like dummied, and I believe he actually ultimately died from that. Scroll down, come on buddy, where is it? Okay, that's not what that was. Dan's got this laid out in a way that, okay, click to 1900. Preface. Yeah, it's not showing the 1900, Dan. And Dan is also a huge fan of Michael Salla. He talks about him a lot. It was okay. Here we go. 1900. Starting with Tesla, the first radio signal received on Earth, believed by Nikola Tesla to be from extraterrestrials. Of course, that's possible, but that's part of. He was a bit of an arrogant man. He was very smart, spoke many different languages, was able to invent, create, and fix something completely in his mind before putting it down on paper and building it. So he was very arrogant about to people with lesser minds like J.P. Morgan and such. So it's kind of understandable why he was shut down. But they used that as an excuse. Started calling him crazy and everything, saying he had been talking to another world. But then, you know, we find out later that these planets allegedly make noise. Now, he had apparently confirmed that this was not a planetary body, that he was, and he's the one who knew everything about frequencies and electricity. I tend to believe this man a lot more than I would just about anybody else alive at the time. Throwback Glad News, brethren. Yeah, okay. Brethren, we have a message from another world, unknown and remote. It reads 1, 2, 3. In the future, it was revealed that the implications of what Tesla did in a ultra-top secret preliminary briefing dated 1989, January 8th. This new leaked MJ-12 document was released on June 14th, 2017, which describes a variety of extraterrestrial-related encounters with humanity. This document includes claims that Tesla made, pioneering radio broadcasts into outer space, in the late 1800s alerted distant extraterrestrials to humanity's existence, which led to them traveling to our planet, and later President Eisenhower establishing full diplomatic relations with these visiting extraterrestrials in 1954. And I believe that did happen, but I believe they were coming here a lot longer than that. There's more than enough evidence everywhere in temples and caves around the world that these people have been there and here from the beginning, whether they came from another planet or they were another race of this planet. Look how many different kinds of animals there are on this planet, right? And how many different kinds of humans, whether it's, race and gender. So you got to assume there's something similar in the past. We do know there's a lot of stuff that's being covered up. When 9/11 happened and everybody took off to go attack Afghanistan and then quickly turned the war to Kuwait. Was it Kuwait? On to Sodom. Anyway, everybody was like, wait a minute, didn't you guys say it was Afghanistan? Oh, yeah, but it's Sodom. And then as soon as they got there, they went to the Natural History Museum, I believe it was, that Hussein had restored, and they went right there, took it over, and regarding it, as far as I know, they may even still be there. So what did they find? Because they were friends with him for a long time. He was on their page, the same page with him, and at one point he even asked their permission to be able to attack Kuwait, I believe, and they said, the American government had said, or CIA had said anyway, that we won't interfere. And then later they used that as an excuse to attack. So what was there that they felt the need to get him out? I'm thinking Stargate tech is very viable. Maybe their, interstellar transportation isn't necessarily a thing. It's more of a Stargate popping in and out of space-time in different coordinates and in different times for that matter. And if time travel is possible, and we have these portals here on Earth, like the Bermuda Triangle and the Alaska Triangle and things like that, are these some of these people that are being taken, if you will, by these portals, are they ending up back in the past? And that's why we're seeing some of this stuff, because I've been thinking that for years. And could you imagine if it were true? Could you imagine you were one of the guys, you get popped back to like prehistoric times, or just before or just after the Ice Age. And all you got is like a gun and a cigarette lighter, and that makes you God. You were seen flying in a fiery ball, crashing to the earth. You somehow survived, and they made you God. And if that were the case, what did they do to history? What did they do that screwed up history? Okay, I am seeing it as 11:56. Getting to the end of the show. Like I said, I'm going to see if I can set up something with Stuart Swerdlow for next week. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank anybody who tuned in and everybody in the chat room. And once again, if you get a chance, donate $5 if you can, $5, $10. You can advertise on the main page, on the home page, for $25 a month. And you can do snail mail donations. You can click the Patreon button down below. Everybody have a great night. This show will be up on a YouTube page in 2 days. And I'll see you guys next Sunday at 10 Eastern.
Be evasive.
But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
Genesis chapter 6 verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.